following text is a transcript and summary of a downloadable audio file found on a website that was said to be available to the public for the course of 3 days, before being taken down by an unknown cause. Any trace of the site has been removed entirely. This has naturally led to extreme doubt and near instant dismissal at first that the site simply never existed. However, upon hearing the file's contents, the possibility of a missing persons was raised, as well as certain other curiosities. The file is an MP3 that contains an audio recording featuring almost 26 minutes of narration by an individual apparently named Chris Lawrence. The very nature of what he speaks of throughout this recording seems extremely detached from reality, as if he is experiencing intense hallucinations. Topics mentioned are regarding one Sonic.exe, including a detailed description about how it inflicts damage or some kind of influence on certain individuals' minds. Yet with the exception of one particular section regarding a statement about the deaths of several people, the narrator seems almost completely calm and collected. There are no signs of a psychotic breakdown or any kind of high stress levels in his voice. The exception mentioned involves the narrator becoming angry on the subject of fan-made creations being both responsible for people's deaths as well as falling victims themselves. Throughout the recording can be heard several ambient noises of a disturbing nature, suspected of being placed in order to mask the location of the individuals. These sounds are also very convincingly mixed in to give the impression that they are moving around in the distance. Authorities have currently ceased any and all investigation into this matter, as it is now officially considered to be a cold case with too many uncertainties and no solid evidence. One other file was received along with the MP3, a .pdf that was at first believed to be corrupted, until an analysis showed that it was an encrypted image that needed to be rearranged somehow. Only just over 65% of it was corrupt beyond recovery. After putting together what was salvageable, the result was a bizarrely fragmented image containing what is believed to be the narrator himself, along with several of his personal details. Both are largely obscured due to the corrupted sections that, after assembly, clearly spell the words "I'm listening," presented in all caps with a pixelated mixture of crimson, black, blue, and red. What can be made of the individual's details includes the majority of his name, along with 11 stray letters of various details such as address, date of birth, and occupation. The other noteworthy detail of these stray letters is that they spell the words "stop killing" and are also placed in the right order, littered throughout the overlaying sentence. This occurrence, with whatever managed to corrupt the image, was unsuccessful in covering those specific areas. The individual appears to be of average height and build, standing straight with long blonde hair just past shoulder length. His face cannot be seen due to that part of the image being corrupted. He is wearing what looks to be nothing more than a simple set of jeans and a midnight blue shirt underneath a black hooded top, carrying what is questionably a set of firearms, consisting of what can be recognized as a Desert Eagle on the right hip, a Glock 17S on the left, and both a Remington 870 pump-action shotgun and XM8 assault rifle on his back. Each firearm has a strange visual effect of being covered in some kind of dense, swirling fog. The fog itself is a mixture of gray, black, purple, and teal, and is wrapped tightly around the shape of the firearms. Strangely though, no holsters are present for this equipment. Also, are 2 other unidentified items attached to the outer side of both his legs. Whether these are weapons or not is uncertain, as there is too much of the image obscured to tell. Very little else can be said about this image, other than what can be made out as a background behind him. It suggests scenery that was either visually altered in several ways, resulting in a series of twisted and disturbing shapes that are colored with a blur of black, mauve, and various shades of blue that share no similarity to any scenery currently known of in the world. Certain factors such as the date of upload, details of any location allegedly involved, as well as both the name and other contents will not be included to prevent investigation from any outside source. The recording begins with a sound that resembles an audio jack being plugged into an unstable or defective socket of some kind, before switching to an ambience of what has a resemblance to both howling and cries of pain that, upon first impressions, have been tweaked with audio software and is at a low volume. After approximately 3 seconds, there is the voice of a male with a British accent, estimated to be in his mid to late 20s.
My name is Chris Lawrence, and I have a warning for anyone who is now hearing this. Whether you like horror or not, you'd best hear this. You need to know, and if you were involved with what has now caused more damage than you could possibly imagine, that means fanfics, hard work, and constant attention to something that was never meant to be messed around with. You have a lot to answer for. You just love playing around with these concepts like all other popular things, turned into memes that you feel you can just take in order to help it grow for your own sick little amuse. No point in going there until you know why I'm here and what I'm talking about, okay? I never imagined doing something like, I don't know, a podcast or whatever you want to call this thing. I don't want anything other than some of your time, if that's okay with you. The pieces of the picture I'm here to tell you about are pretty big within themselves, but hopefully you'll see it's all bad. In the end, though, I just want you to listen more than anything. I'd best get to the point, right? Before I confuse you any further. You could say this is all began when I was checking some stuff on YouTube one night. I was watching some top 10 video on creepy moments in games. After seeing this one game in particular, I got a bit curious. Well, I say curious, but I'm pretty sure at this point I was actually controlled on some level. I'm not sure that's how it works. I guess you could say I have my own reasons for regretting that day. I heard the name Sonic.exe. Or anything about it, for that matter. Even then, I don't actually think regret would be my word of choice. So, if anyone just stopped listening, fine. Maybe it's nice to stay ignorant. That is, until they might come across my kind of problems. But to anyone who's still here, you want to hear what I have to say? If you really want to know about this, and if you'll just understand or even believe I'm trying to stop what follows in that thing's wake for real, then you will stay the hell away from it. There's a lot to wrap your head around. I don't even know where to begin. I guess carrying on about how I first exposed myself or got exposed would be a good start. So, I mentioned the list of creepy stuff in games, and this had me interested. I heard a couple of things about what it was, and some research followed. Research usually leads to something with a download link. But like I said, this was more than just fascination. It was being compelled without knowing it. And the more I think of it, the more I am certain I was being called to since I first saw him. The version I got was just a replication of the original though, extra stuff in it, but most importantly, it wasn't the actual thing. Now, if by chance you haven't seen what this thing is, it's basically the first Sonic game. It was done by Wes Craven on an especially bad day, right? I gotta say, as freaky as it must be for most people that don't have the stomach for horror, and maybe even a few that do, I gotta say, as freaky as it must be for most people that don't have the stomach for horror, and maybe even a few that do, it couldn't go unexplored forever. Violence is everywhere you look and all that, am I right? Seeing the characters after they were caught is what I remember most clearly. That and the face at the end. But there were a couple of details that were a little different from what I saw in any vid. It's easy to say there was something about the eyes, but in this case, there really was something about those eyes. The pupils, they were darker than I saw beforehand. And that wasn't any, that wasn't my monitor. But the really weird part was when I must have looked away for about a second, then back again. This time, they were really bright, and it made his eyes look bigger. But the really weird part was when I must have looked away for about a second, and back again. This time, they were really bright, and it made his eyes look bigger. Oh yeah, there was one other thing to mention. No feeling of fear, only interest. I obviously thought nothing of it back then, but now that I've had time to look back on all those points where I should have been afraid, it's amazing how much of an effect it has, and how much attention you don't pay. I felt I just had to find out anything else I could about it. I wanted to find the original version. Didn't even know why. I do now, of course, but at the time, like I said, totally oblivious. But there was something in that moment that definitely signified things really starting. Shortly after all that, Steam told me that someone named Gamma had added me as a friend. Curiosity got me, of course. I opened the chat to say hi, but without anything saying they were typing, they said hi first, and this person knew my name. I did feel a bit weirded out by that. I mean, it could have just been someone I already knew who found me on here. But I just played through that game, so I already had far-fetched ideas going through my head. Huh? I asked them how they knew me, and the response was a little strange, to say the least. At the most, it was just detached and insane. This person started going on about how I'd caught his attention, and they wanted to take me back to the beginning. It stopped soon after that, but I had the life scared out of me by laughter coming through my headphones. It was loud, made me smack them off my head, and yeah, it was the same laughter I heard in the game. Oh. I checked to see if it was still up. Nothing was there. And then something came up in the chat that caught my eye again. The words Gamma is now deceased. Yep, you did just hear that from me. It might be that I haven't paid much attention, but I'm pretty sure Steam doesn't show that one. It gets better though. It switched to Gamma is now mine. A link came up that just said the beginning. I didn't click on it, but my PC just started downloading the game anyway. Kind of makes me wonder what the point of the link was if it just did that. Anyway, it was done in a few seconds and got put on the desktop in even less time. And except for the chat window and a brand new desktop icon, I would have believed this was someone who was good with coding and able to play a not so funny joke on me. But after everything else, you know what I was thinking. And you're probably thinking it too. Well, we both got proven right. Very quickly. The screen went dead. And I heard something like scratching. Then slice marks started etching themselves onto the screen. No, not even a vid or anything. I mean actual scratches. My monitor was being ripped up in front of me. The screen was getting twisted up where it was cut. It was buckling and curling outwards, and underneath was something that looked like living tissue. There were words appearing, but I also heard something over the sound of the screen being destroyed, and it was coming from my headphones. Like a genius, I grabbed them to listen in. It was like several screams at once. They were really distorted, quiet at first, but clearly getting louder. As more of it appeared, it was like hearing stuff from somewhere really nasty. Heard that laughter again, a lot louder before. Pretty much deafening, actually. Only this time, it didn't come from the PC. It was more like something behind me. And then complete silence. When it stopped, the words were in all caps saying, "I'm listening." My brain had a hard time with it all at first. I dropped the headphones and checked outside the door, only to see nothing there. Not only that, but I looked back at my monitor. Nothing. No scratches, just a blank screen. Now, this is what got me thinking about the whole control thing to begin with. And I still wouldn't know if it wasn't pointed out to me. I doubted my own sanity. But only for a few moments. After that, I didn't have any problems going near the PC. Even after what I just witnessed, there was no fear towards it, but no curiosity this time. Didn't seem important back then, of course. But I should possibly mention it now. Anyway, the PC was still running and the monitor was just fine. First thing I did was check Steam. No one in Gamma or anything saying I ever met them, except for the new game I had. Everything looked normal again. I do remember it having a new icon though, just those eyes with blood trickling down underneath. Quite a sharp resolution too. Excuse me. I kept thinking on and off. I just imagined it all. No one else in the house was kicking my door off its hinges because of the noise. But believe me, it felt so real. In the end, I was still unsure, but then I stopped thinking about that. Because a very strange feeling started creeping up on me. It was like I wanted to sleep, but not because I was tired. It was more a sense of just not wanting to be awake anymore. No kind of depression or anything, but I just feel like... But I just didn't feel like me. I just fell asleep like it didn't happen. Shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have. Shouldn't have. Shouldn't have. One thing was changed. The look. There was almost nothing cartoony about it. Everything looked so grim. and real. Imagine someone putting all these characters in places through Photoshop or something, then making them just a bit off from a human's height. Seeing them from that perspective for the first time. You've seen them in games, but in the flesh, as it were. The eyes were still almost as big though, so you might have found it a bit creepy. Some wouldn't even care because it's Sonic. And I wanted to stop it, but I couldn't. On account of being locked in a room, being made to watch through a window. I never did get shown what he did to those poor guys. I only heard the screams and then static. I should point out, they weren't the screens you get in the game. They were fitting for each character. What I did get after all of it though, was that freak busting through the window after he was done, growling something about suffering being part of who I am. I can't remember the exact words, although the words I do remember was him yelling at me to wake up. I did just that in one hell of a hurry. Didn't even get much sleep. As I was sitting on the edge of my bed, I could have sworn I was still dreaming when I saw what was on my monitor. But I wasn't, unfortunately. It looked like a video clip of the freak, but he looked as real as he was in the dream. His eyes were completely fixed on me. Also, seeing as you know who I'm talking about, let's go with a pet name, like Freakazoid. I'll come up with something demeaning for him later. You don't really have a clue who or what he is. But you know what he looks like. And you may think you know what he does, but you don't. You really don't. It was a dark background, so I could barely see anything other than him. But I could just make out something like a crimson sky. And there were some kind of shapes dancing and twisting around in the distance like they were something that was alive. After a few seconds, I realized this wasn't a video clip, no loop. Freakazoid was actually staring at me with a toned down smile on his face. And that feeling hit me again. Only this time, it was more like needing to do just one more thing before you go to sleep, you know? Like 5 more minutes on a game or one more video to watch. I actually felt I needed to get to him. No trait of common sense at all. The desktop came up by itself, but the background was still the same thing, until he started looking at the game. The screen went a bit strange after that, giving it a split second of red static here and there. The mouse cursor flew about all over the screen as well. It all stopped with the cursor being right next to the icon. My hand just went to the headphones, then the keyboard and mouse. I clicked on it. It was just like before, without the updated look. The music, scenery, murders, the words, the characters, and the way they locked out when they died. There is just one small detail you might just want to know about. My hands were stuck to the keyboard and mouse, and no, I don't mean needing to keep my hands on them. I mean I tried to remove them, and it was like everything was stuck to the desk, except that I was able to slide the mouse around. I played through to the end, seeing the same ending. 3 rounds of static followed by laughing. Then there was another round of static. The picture stayed on the same, but now it says, "What are you?" Yet another round of static, and then Right, okay. I don't know if this is even going to work. And don't ask me how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it.
I hope you enjoyed watching all those sealed fates. You knew they were sealed. You knew what was going to happen to them, yet you just watched. Although, you did more than just watch, didn't you? You took control of them, led them to me, gave them up. You are as responsible for their deaths as I am. Chris, there's something about you, something I can see. I wish to take a closer look at you. Let's talk in private, shall we?
Okay, what you hopefully just heard, that was his voice. What he said to me. I know, it doesn't really add up that I'd have that to show you. But I did just show you, I hope. What happened after was, well, all I really remember is the screen flashing and hurting my eyes. But he was moving with every second of it. The last thing I remember was the shot of his whole body standing straight with his arms stretched out in front. And he had that same look on his face from before. Then everything, and I mean my actual vision, went completely red, then to black. Next thing I knew, I woke up, well, let's just say somewhere else. I can't tell you because I don't know. Quite a few things have happened since then, my own adventures through this, but I've already driveled on for what must be about half an hour now. Besides, there's another important part you need to hear. I don't know how long has passed since I first got into whatever this is, but the things I've seen, I don't know what this place is. If it's just a dream, or if I'm hallucinating in reality, I'm strapped down to a bed in a mental hospital, or something. If this is some kind of place beyond your imagination, or your nightmares. I know it sounds completely insane what I'm saying, but I don't know what else to say. I would try explaining how things work and the sights you get here, but I don't think I have the words to describe that. I can tell you something I've seen through. Bodies. A lot of brutality and murder. There's been characters either from games or I'm guessing made by any of you, since I don't recognize any of them. They get chased down before they just disappear until he's done with them. And then there's the human victims he chooses. Do you understand? I'm talking about real people here! These people went through the same thing as me! Only they weren't so lucky. They didn't have what I've got. They weren't saved and given a chance to even survive, much less fight back. And it's your fault! Yes, you! You keep conjuring up all these little pieces of fiction, artwork and further proof of its existence! It's because of you that a place like this exists. All those characters that you keep creating, they get about 5 minutes of life in this hellhole before their remains. as well as the people he chose to drag in here, get left for me and others to find. And you continue to bury us in this. And if you say, but I played and nothing happened, then he found you lacking. Not worth his attention. Why do you have to give him this reign of terror that he has? Why can't you draw him getting his face kicked in for a change? Why don't you just give us a break already? You have to stop indulging this thing's power. Believe me. Once again, I know it's completely insane what I'm saying. And the little evidence I have of words and the apparent recording, I'm not even sure you got to hear, isn't much to go on. I should imagine you've even questioned how I got that. Well, I just have it. That's all I've got for you. But if you've listened to this point, there must be a part of you that's convinced whatever all this started off as, it must have grown, it's evolved, it's refined itself, even though you wouldn't know from looking at this place. Either that, or it's always been here, it's just needed something to give it shape, and I don't know. Something I am sure of, though, is also the reason I'm doing this. And it's that I'm here to tell you, you have to stop feeding him. If not for our sakes, or the sake of anyone else here, then for your own. I can't say what he looks like for when he goes after someone. He's very picky, leaving so many alone. Yet there will always be those few people that spark his interest. If you believe me, then I'll make you a deal. If you leave this thing alone, then we'll fight this in peace and stop it from spreading. He can't be killed, but he can be subdued. If you don't believe me, but you're still listening, just think about it. That's all I ask. I'm not asking for you to spread the word or stop making any of these characters. And I'm not saying destroy what there is already to see. You can't destroy it. There will always be a copy of the stuff somewhere in the world. And even then, I doubt he'd let this place end in such a way. After being here for so long, as I have, I feel that even these characters you've given life to in some way or another have the right to exist. And you people don't deserve to die. Would you agree? Just stop giving this creature power it keeps using on us. Leave this one alone. He is extremely dangerous, and he might just choose you next. I'm literally the only living human being I've come across here. So what the hell would your chances be? The only reason I've survived here is because something wanted us here. And because we're probably just as much as a freak as he is in some ways. I know what I asked for is a lot. Maybe it's even impossible. There's a part of you all that's hardwired to respond to violence. You may take offense to that, but it's the truth. Think about it. So many of you see what all these forms of media have to give you. You play games to feel strong. You watch films to escape yourself. And when you see the news, you say, "Oh my, how tragic!" You keep watching. Just as long as it isn't happening to you.